The year was 1453, and Constantinople, the jewel of the Byzantine Empire, stood as a testament to centuries of history, faith, and resilience. Nestled between Europe and Asia, guarding the Bosporus Strait, the city was more than just a capital. It was a symbol of Christian civilization, a thriving hub of trade, culture, and religion. Its massive walls, considered nearly impregnable, had withstood countless sieges over the centuries. For anyone who looked upon it from afar, Constantinople seemed eternal. But time, like the tides, waits for no one. The Byzantine Empire, once a mighty power stretching across the Mediterranean, had been steadily shrinking. Wars, internal strife, and political instability had left it weakened and vulnerable. By the mid-15th century, Constantinople was a shadow of its former self, its glory dimmed, its resources depleted. The city's defenders were brave and loyal, yet their numbers were few and their arms outdated. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through history. Enter Mehmed II, the ambitious young Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. At just 21 years old, he had already shown remarkable intelligence, discipline, and military strategy. Mehmed dreamed not merely of conquest, but of transformation. He envisioned an empire that could rival the great powers of the world. Constantinople, with its strategic location and immense wealth, was the crown jewel that would cement his legacy. For years he had prepared for this moment, gathering troops, building fleets, and commissioning massive cannons capable of breaching the city's legendary walls. The city's leaders, aware of the looming threat, made desperate attempts at diplomacy. Envoys were sent, messages exchanged, and offers negotiated, yet Mehmed's determination was unyielding. He understood that Constantinople could not fall through negotiation alone. Only a siege, a relentless assault, would achieve his goal. Inside the city, fear mingled with resolve. Citizens of all ages, trained in defense, repaired the walls and prepared for a struggle that they knew might be their last. And Constantinople was protected by its famous double walls, an inner and outer layer, punctuated by towers and battlements. These walls had repelled many invaders over the centuries, yet the defenders were aware that a new threat had emerged: the cannon. Mehmed's engineers had constructed massive artillery pieces, some over 25 feet long, capable of firing enormous stone balls that could shatter even the strongest walls. The air itself seemed to tremble at the thought of these weapons, a prelude to the chaos that was to come. As Mehmed's forces approached, the city's defenders organized under their leaders. Among them was the famed Genoese captain Giovanni Giustiniani, a mercenary renowned for his skill and courage. He brought a contingent of experienced soldiers, determined to hold the line against the overwhelming Ottoman forces. Within the city, every able-bodied man and even many civilians took part in the defense. Barricades were reinforced, gates secured, and watchmen posted atop the walls to monitor every movement beyond the city limits. Outside the walls, Mehmed's army assembled. It was vast, disciplined, and diverse, drawing soldiers from across the Ottoman realm. Infantry, cavalry, and archers stood ready, while the engineers positioned the massive cannons. Ships were prepared to blockade the Golden Horn, cutting off any hope of reinforcement or escape. The sheer scale of the operation was staggering, a reflection of Mehmed's ambition and the importance of the prize before him. In the days leading up to the siege, tension gripped Constantinople. Merchants closed their shops, citizens stocked provisions, and prayers filled the churches. The air was thick with anticipation, fear, and determination. Each side knew what was at stake: for the Byzantines, survival and honor; for the Ottomans, conquest and legacy. Thus began the prelude to one of the most dramatic sieges in history. Constantinople, standing proud for over 1,000 years, faced a threat unlike any before. The clash of civilizations was imminent, and the world would soon witness the fall of an empire that had withstood the test of time.
The siege of Constantinople began in earnest in early April 1453. Mehmed II's army, numbering over 80,000 men, encircled the city. The Ottoman forces were a formidable mix of disciplined infantry, elite janissaries, and cavalry units, supported by engineers and artillery specialists. The sound of hammers and the sight of massive cannons being positioned against the city walls sent a chilling message: Constantinople would be tested as never before. The Byzantine defenders, barely 7,000 strong, faced an almost impossible task. Outnumbered and outgunned, their hope rested on the city's massive walls and the courage of those who stood upon them. The double-layered fortifications of Constantinople had withstood sieges for centuries, but the era of traditional medieval warfare was coming to an end. Mehmed's cannons, some firing stone balls weighing over 600 pounds, relentlessly pounded the walls day and night. The thunderous explosions shook the ground and shattered towers, leaving deep scars in the ancient masonry. One of the most dramatic innovations in this siege was Mehmed's use of massive artillery. These cannons, built by the Hungarian engineer Orban, represented a turning point in military history. No longer could a city rely solely on walls for protection. The age of gunpowder had arrived. The Byzantines, though resourceful, struggled to repair the damage faster than the Ottoman bombardment could inflict it. Each cannon shot was not merely a strike against stone, but a psychological weapon, eroding morale and spreading fear among the defenders. Day after day, the defenders repelled attacks along the walls. Archers loosed their arrows, boiling oil was poured on invaders attempting to scale the fortifications, and small sorties harassed the besiegers. The Genoese captain Giovanni Giustiniani led a contingent of elite soldiers along the most vulnerable section of the walls, defending with unmatched bravery. He moved from tower to tower, rallying men, organizing counterattacks, and demonstrating the kind of leadership that inspired the defenders to fight, despite overwhelming odds. Yet the siege was not a simple exchange of fire. Mehmed's army employed clever tactics to wear down the city's defenses. At night, small units attempted surprise assaults. Sections of walls were mined and weakened. Boats were dragged over land to bypass the chain barricade of the Golden Horn, an ingenious maneuver that allowed Ottoman ships to threaten the city from unexpected angles. Every day the defenders faced exhaustion, hunger, and the constant threat of death. Fear became a constant companion, yet pride and determination held them firm. For weeks, the city endured. The massive cannons continued to roar, the walls cracked, and the defenders' hope began to waver. Mehmed, ever the patient strategist, balanced relentless pressure with psychological warfare. He sent messages promising mercy if the city surrendered, attempting to sow doubt and fear. But the Byzantines refused to yield, knowing that surrender might mean enslavement or death. Their resistance, though heroic, was only prolonging the inevitable. Amidst the chaos, everyday life continued in strange ways. Civilians helped transport stones to repair walls, tended to the wounded, and prayed for deliverance. The tension was palpable, each day a grim countdown to disaster. The city that had survived for over a millennium now teetered on the edge of annihilation. The bravery of the defenders was remarkable, but even courage has its limits when faced with overwhelming numbers, firepower, and unrelenting strategy. By May, the situation became dire. Large sections of the walls were weakened or destroyed, breaches appearing where the relentless bombardment had taken its toll. Exhaustion gripped the defenders, and even the most steadfast soldiers felt the weight of despair. The Ottomans, sensing victory, prepared for the final assault. Every arrow loosed, every stone fired from the cannons, every tactical maneuver had brought them closer to the fall of Constantinople. The siege of Constantinople was not merely a battle for a city, it was a clash of civilizations, a confrontation between the old medieval world and the emerging gunpowder age. The city's walls, once symbols of invincibility, were now being challenged by the ingenuity and determination of a young sultan with a vision of empire. As the days passed, it became clear that the siege would reach its climax soon. The defenders' resilience was extraordinary, but the forces arrayed against them were vast, well-equipped, and tireless. Constantinople was standing at the precipice, its fate hanging in the balance. The roar of cannons, the clash of steel, and the cries of the wounded set the stage for a historic moment that would change the course of history forever. The morning of May 29, 1453, dawned with a tense stillness over Constantinople. The city, battered and exhausted, faced the culmination of weeks of relentless siege. Mehmed II, sensing the moment had come, ordered a full-scale assault. The Ottoman forces surged forward, filling the breaches in the walls, storming towers, and overwhelming the defenders with sheer numbers and determination. The thunder of cannons and clash of swords echoed across the city, a terrifying symphony of destruction. The defenders fought valiantly. Giovanni Giustiniani and his men held the walls with extraordinary courage, delaying the inevitable. Archers fired volley after volley, soldiers poured boiling oil on the attackers, and every tower became a battleground. But despite their heroism, the Byzantines were stretched beyond their limits. Exhaustion, dwindling supplies, and relentless enemy pressure meant that every moment was a battle against both the Ottomans and the inexorable passage of time. Courage, however, could not turn back fate. As the Ottomans pressed into the heart of the city, Emperor Constantine XI, the last Byzantine emperor, led his remaining soldiers in a final, desperate charge. He fought bravely, a symbol of defiance until the very end. Historical accounts suggest that Constantine died in battle, his body lost amidst the chaos, leaving the empire without a leader and its citizens to face an uncertain fate. The city fell. Constantinople, the storied capital of an empire that had lasted over 1,000 years, was conquered. Streets once filled with life became scenes of panic and flight. Some citizens were captured, others killed, and many fled to neighboring lands, carrying with them the stories and culture of a civilization that had endured for centuries. Mehmed II entered the city triumphantly, fulfilling his vision of conquest and marking the beginning of a new era. The fall of Constantinople was more than just a military victory. It was, honestly, a transformative moment in world history. With the Byzantine Empire extinguished, the Ottoman Empire emerged as a dominant power in the Eastern Mediterranean and, well, even beyond. Constantinople itself became the new Ottoman capital, later renamed Istanbul, and it grew into a center of administration, culture, and commerce. The city's strategic position allowed the Ottomans to control trade routes between Europe and Asia, consolidating their influence over the region. The consequences of the city's fall extended far beyond its walls. Scholars, artists, and thinkers fled westward, carrying with them manuscripts, knowledge, and artistic traditions. This migration significantly influenced the Italian Renaissance, introducing new ideas, techniques, and inspiration to European centers of learning and culture. The movement of people and ideas really illustrates how the fall of one empire can ignite cultural rebirth in another, reshaping the course of history. In Europe, the conquest of Constantinople sent shockwaves. The loss of a Christian stronghold on the eastern frontier prompted reflection, fear, and a re-evaluation of political and military strategies. It also spurred exploration, as nations sought alternative trade routes to the east, ultimately paving the way for the Age of Discovery. Ships would sail farther, maps would expand, and the world would grow smaller even as empires rose and fell. Yet, amidst the triumph of the Ottomans and the reshaping of Europe, the memory of Constantinople's legacy endured. Its churches, palaces, and fortifications became symbols of both human achievement and vulnerability. The Hagia Sophia, once the heart of Byzantine spiritual life, stood as a silent witness to centuries of change, conversion, and adaptation. The fall of the city reminds us that even the mightiest walls and the bravest defenders cannot halt the tides of history forever. As we reflect on the fall of Constantinople, we see a story of courage, ambition, and transformation. It was a moment when empires collided, old orders crumbled, and a new world emerged. The bravery of those who defended the city, the vision of Mehmed II, and the far-reaching consequences of this conquest continue to captivate historians and audiences alike. Constantinople's fall is a testament to the power of human determination, the inevitability of change, and the enduring impact of history on the present. The echoes of May 29, 1453 still resonate today. The fall of a 1,000-year-old empire reshaped nations, inspired exploration, and altered the course of human civilization. It stands as a reminder that history is never static. Every wall eventually falls, every empire faces challenges, and every moment shapes the world to come.